Hello and welcome back to Boots, Banter, and Beyond, the Stories of Irreverent Warriors, the show where stories about how humor and camaraderie have changed lives for the better. I'm your host, as always, Eric Schessel. Today on the show, we've got local coordinator Kimberly Pond from IWDC. Kim, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us this evening. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you for having us on to talk about what's going on in DC.
Absolutely. Before we even dig into anything about the hike, though, like tell everybody more about like who you are as a person. Tell about like your military service, your background, your MOS, all that good stuff. Give us juice.
So I'm a 17-year Air Force veteran. I was actually Air National Guard, and I was one of the lucky ones that got to spend my 17 years either in civil service status or active duty status. So essentially active duty. um, my AFSC, for the correct terminology for the Air Force, was I was a combat rescue crew chief. So I was a crew chief for HH-60, the Pavehawks, and worked closely with our combat rescue team, our pararescues and stuff up in Alaska.
Nice. And pararescue, those guys are crazy.
Yes, they are extremely crazy. But, after a little bit of time, I was welcomed into the fold. So
Very nice. Well, so as you can see, I also was Air Force. I was security forces. So
awesome.
security forces
Awesome.
and crew chiefs didn't get along so well.
For us, it wasn't too bad, especially because I will say we had a good bond with our security forces on our base, just because they were very integral with a lot of stuff that we did with the aircraft. Especially, there was one time where, you know, unadmittedly, that my helicopter basically crapped out an engine, and we had to park it on top of a mountaintop for 3 days and do an engine change in the middle of November. And security forces had to come up and stay on top of the mountain with the helicopter so that you didn't have bush pilots flying by trying to snipe um, pictures and stuff. And yeah, so we've had a good relationship because when we've needed them, they've been there.
Yeah, and I know that like our AFSC that we it changed after 9/11, and so we were doing more of that stuff after 9/11 than we were before. But I mean, that would be like thinking about it now, like that would be kind of cool. Like, hey, by the way, we got a chopper that's down in a mountain somewhere. We got to have you guys go guard this thing for a little while and be like, all right, sign me up. When we going? Let's go. That sounds like an adventure.
And I'll tell you, the ones that we had, they didn't mind getting their hands dirty. And if we needed help, because again, up in Alaska on a mountaintop, middle of November, it's cold. It's super cold. And, we had to airlift heaters in, and they had to stay in tents and stay up there and stuff. So they were good sports, but they were very good to help us where we could use the hand while we were trying to do an engine change.
Gotcha. So all right, so then how did you find Irreverent Warriors then?
So for Irreverent Warriors, I had a friend back in 2019. She had done a couple of the hikes in the DC area, and I played softball with her. And she called me up one day and she says, "Hey, I'm going to Richmond for a hike. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'm game." you know, um, she didn't give me any warning other than, "Hey, dress festive," because it was in October, and I believe it was October. She's like, "Dress festive, red, white, and blue. I'll bring makeup, hairspray, whatever. We'll take care of it on the way down to Richmond." I'm like, "Okay, great." I get down there and I see about 100 people in silkies. And, Air Force, we don't wear silkies. I don't even want to admit to what we wore, but we didn't wear silkies. And so I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're doing this." And that was my first hike, you know, just dropped into it without even knowing. And then since then, I had made a couple of local hikes. Like I did one in DC. After I had a knee surgery, I did one in DC in 2023. 2023 is when I was able to get back to doing a hike. And then I wanted to be a part of the group. So I joined the team here in DC early 2024.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. So like, all right, so you're obviously you're the local coordinator now for DC. How did that how did that happen? How did you go from just going to your first hike down there and then taking over and running DC?
I think when we looked at the team in place at the time, I think I was one that I have experience with working with nonprofits and coordinating events and whatnot. And I also had time to be able to put in the work that was needed as an LC. So I went ahead and knowing it was going to take quite a bit of my time and I believed in the mission, I was like, sure, why not?
Yeah. And how have you enjoyed it?
I've enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't mind all the work. It's been great meeting the different people, being able to connect with the different LCs, with the different cities, going to other hikes, helping other hikes, having people come and help me because I did need a little bit of help last year. I've really enjoyed it. It's pulled me out of my shell because I typically am a wallflower and like to observe the room, not interact with the room. And so it's really pushing me out of my comfort zone and I'm doing well with it.
Good. The so this is how many years have you been in LC now then?
I'm going into my second year. So this
Okay.
will be my third hike as an LC.
Nice. So I know that we're before we dig too deep into your hike and everything like that. I want to know like, and this is going to be a fresher perspective because you've been in as an LC only for a a very short time. What does IW mean to you? Like you say, like you've got the time and you're making the time and you know that's busy, but what's the draw for you? Why is IW like really important to you?
Um, the reason why I've taken on IW as a passion project is because this is kind of a tough one for me. 14 years ago, I tried to commit suicide. Luckily, I'm still here. And I recognized the importance of here I recognize and saw the importance of having your tribe or your group of people that are there supporting you, helping you get through tough times, which was very remnants of what I had when I tried to commit suicide. I had all of my friends, my family, people come out of woodworks for support to just uplift me up and help get me out of that dark place. So when I became a part of Irreverent Warriors and understood the mission and saw firsthand what it was doing, not only for myself, but for other people, and having people come up and thank me for putting on hikes, thank me for putting in the work, and then giving me hugs, people I don't even know, to me, it was very rewarding. And so that's why I keep going because I feel very rewarded with every event that we have.
And well, first I am glad that you are still here. Like that's a big thing, and that's not something that to be taken lightly, you know. I am personally thankful that you are still here and you're with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Um, all right, so let's try to bring the light back up. So all right, so tell me about. So I'm gonna pull up your the poster here. So we've got this is the DC night hike, right? So this is not your standard Silkies hike. This is the only night hike that I'm aware of in all of IW, right? So and we'll pop that sucker up again in a little bit. So what what was the draw behind the doing a night hike? Like what was the motivation behind doing that? And how did it go last year when you guys did it?
So I wasn't the one that originally started the night hike. So this is the third night hike.
Okay.
But I do remember attending the first one and I believe the draw was, it was something different. It was something to draw people into DC. And DC, with having all the monuments and the memorials and everything, it's a different perspective for seeing them. Me personally, they're beautiful during the day, but there's nothing like seeing them at night. It's something else. And so I think that's what has kind of kept it going, is because enough people who have been to DC for the day hike, they haven't been at night. And so it gives them a different perspective of the nation's capital. And it's a little bit of a different route than our day hike. But again, most of it, on the National Mall.
So is that I just lost my question. The night hike, how, I guess, how is it, how's the energy for that? Because like usually we know that a lot of the daytime hikes, they can be kind of rowdy. There's a lot more party
Mhm.
element to it. How does a night hike differ from that? Is the energy still there, but it's kind of different, or like tell us about that.
The energy is still there. I think probably one of the best things about the hike is that we don't have bar stops. One, because bars in DC can't handle the size crowd that we have hiking. So we've kind of eliminated those. But the energy is still there, because I refer to it as a rolling rave party, just because you have everybody's coming in their glow in the dark stuff, things that light up and flash. So, when we're walking through the National Mall, we really do look like a rolling rave party, because we just have lights flashing, music blaring, we're in our silkies, and it draws positive. We've gotten positive attention from it, which has been really great, but it has the same vibe as the other hikes, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit more energy.
And I guess like that a rave hike is probably pretty apt. I saw, like, because I've seen the photos and I've seen the videos and stuff, and it legit just looks like a rave hike, and that's really really cool. How does the community around, like in DC, like take to that? Like IW in itself obviously is one thing, but doing a night hike is a whole different animal. So how does the community see that? How do they react to that?
We've had nothing but positive interaction with the community when we've been doing the night hike. We do get stopped. We do hand out our mission cards. We do talk about IW a lot. At night, there is a little bit of a different element. You still have tourists that are out. Especially this year, we'll go into what makes this year extra special. But you do have the tourists that are out in DC, and a lot of them are out at night wanting to see the monuments lit up. And so we get a really positive interaction. We have to have permission through three different law enforcement jurisdictions. We have really good a relationship with them. So, when we're being escorted by Metropolitan Police, they're giving us high fives, they're smiling, they're dancing with us, they're having fun. Capitol Police, when we walk through the Capitol, will wave at us. They can't look like they're having too much fun, but you know that they are. And there's even a little bit, we've had to, work with Secret Service as well. And the National Park Service, the park rangers are great. Secret Service, for the most part, has been great the last couple of years. A lot of because they know that we're coming, and they've actually this year met a few of us doing a recon as we were doing our recon around the White House, and just sat
Very
there and
cool.
talked to us. And most of them were veterans, and so they were like, "Hey, this is cool. We're going to look into this."
That's awesome, and it'd be cool to have like Secret Service people, Capitol Police, like join, like, and be part of the hike element. Like I think that would be the first hike and probably the only hike that would ever have like Secret Service agents like as part of the hike element. So that'd be kind of cool.
Right, right.
So when is the night hike happening? By the way, when is that?
So the night hike this year is March 29th. We are starting an hour earlier than typical, just because I had the date a month earlier than what we typically have had it. Typically, it's been the end of April. I opted for the end of March this year. My goal was so that we could hike amongst the cherry blossoms. And NPS, National Park Service, actually came out last week and said peak cherry blossom bloom will be that weekend.
Awesome, and
So
that's that. So that we got the hike poster up there, so you guys can see That it starts at 1700 as your kickoff. And yeah, I see the cherry blossoms
Mhm.
now. That makes sense. You mentioned the cherry blossoms of the hike poster, so that's actually be really really cool. So for
Mhm.
anyone that's watching, you guys make sure you guys scan these QR codes in this hike poster and get your asses out to the DC night hike. That's going to be a good time.
Yep.
What so like because you all right, so you talked about going through three separate law enforcement agencies to kind of get your hike and stuff going. What was like one of the biggest struggles that you had this year putting your hike together?
Um, I think the biggest struggle is something that a lot of other local coordinators have. Is just getting the funding and coordinating. I know with us right now, coordinating the permits because it has to be coordinated through three jurisdictions. And if one jurisdiction says, no, we don't want to issue it, then none of them will issue it, even if we cut that section. So if Capitol Police says, we're not going to issue a permit for this, even if we cut Capitol Police out, if one jurisdiction says no for something other than another event is going on, then all of the jurisdictions will say absolutely not. So they do communicate with each other, which is really important for us to have a good rapport with them. Is they talk,
Yeah,
and they
no.
even though we yeah, even though we don't have to go through permitting with Secret Service and everything else, they still also communicate with Secret Service. So I always reach out to them as well and say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to have 200 plus people walking in short shorts. We're going to be lit up like a Christmas tree with flags. We're okay. you know,
Well, yeah, but I mean that's like why your hike seems to be like that. That's gonna be where the people in the hike element have to essentially they got to behave, right? Because
Mhm.
if you have too many people
Yep,
acting a fool and you guys get into some sort of trouble, then the next year, like someone in the elements could be like, "No, we're jurisdictions to say no, we're not gonna sign you guys off this year," which means you're not gonna have a night hike. So it's like everybody has to
right,
be nice and everything like that. You can't have a it can't be an actual rave. Like people can dress like it's a rave, but you can't
right,
actually have a rave because you might get in trouble for that, and that would be the end of the DC hike.
right. And we are watched closely. So, you know,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's nuts. That's probably one of the toughest struggles that I've ever heard from anybody in the 2 years now that I've been doing this. Is that's a big one because it like the impact of that. Just one jurisdiction says no, we're not going to do this. Like the DC night hike is like shut down. Like there's no way around it. And that's
Yep.
kind of nuts,
Yeah.
man. So if you were, all right, so let's put it this way. So, because usually I ask people like if meeting any veteran and trying to convince them to come out to the hike. So now I'm going to kind of flip it on you a little bit. If you were talking to a Secret Service agent as you guys are walking around the White House doing your hike recon, and you were telling them about the mission and trying to get them to come out because they may not have heard about IW or they may have heard and they just haven't come out or done anything like that. What are you telling that Secret Service agent to get them to come out to the Silkies hike?
I'm basically going over with them the mission and what we're about and what we're doing. And that's very much what we did. Somebody that was doing the recon with us actually was stopped and we got surrounded by Secret Service. It was a little daunting because we got surrounded. They were curious as to what was going on. And so we're explaining, yes, some people we are wearing tactical vests, but they don't have plates in them. Some people might have plates in them because they want the weight, but we just talk to them about the mission, what we're doing, the different events, what goes into it. I also make sure that I pull my phone out and I have pictures of hikes and what our hikes look like. So they kind of see, oh, okay, this looks great. This looks fun. And from my interaction with the Secret Service agents that we have spoken to, they've been like, that is really cool. We have to look into it. So hopefully they show up. Not in uniform, just to have
Right.
fun.
Yeah. Yes, they need to come out. If they need to come out, they need to be in silkies as well. Like there's no favoritism here. They can't come out in their suits and their earpieces. No, you guys are not on duty. You guys are coming out to hike. You guys got to wear the bare minimum like the rest of us.
Right.
So Are there, knowing that it's DC and knowing that like we all wear our plate carriers or we wear tack vests and all that, like are there any parts of the hike where we're not allowed to wear that stuff for any reason?
So there is not, and that is because, and the reason is because the portion where we're supposed to be able to cross in front of the White House, we actually do that on National Park Service grounds versus on Secret Service grounds, White House grounds. Um,
Okay.
because those that are familiar aren't familiar, there's a road that gets blocked off that goes right in front of the White House. We actually stay on the sidewalk on the right hand side of that road across from the White House, and that's Park Service. Park Service allows us to wear our tack vests and everything else. Whereas if we were going on actual White House property where Secret Service had jurisdiction, we would then have to take all of that off, load it in a truck, and then put it back on once we came off the grounds. So we've kind of altered the route so that we don't have to do that.
Very nice. And I know like IW, like we stray away from politics and religion and all that stuff. Like, have you guys, knowing that it's like the nation's capital, there's a lot always going on there. Have you guys ever had any troubles with, not so much like protesting the hike itself, but protests going on during the even just the night hike, where you guys are having to kind of watch P's and Q's or anything like that? Have you guys ever had to deal with anything like that?
We've not really run into any protests going on, so we've been fortunate and haven't had to deal with that. We will have the occasional person that automatically sees red, white, and blue, and before really looking more at us, think that we are a protest, and so that's where usually somebody steps out of the element and explains to them what we are, what we're doing, and that we are 100% not a political protest. We're not a political anything. We're just a bunch of veterans out having a good time.
Right. Well, and that's super important. I'm glad. Like I said, I know that nation's capital can be a hairy place at sometimes with protests and different factions and all that stuff. And knowing that how we stay out of all that, and knowing what we like we look like a protest going on. And so it's, and
Right.
especially in a high vis area, even at night, like even the night hike itself is, that's got to come across as kind of, it could be a very intimidating for people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
can you tell us anything about what you have planned for the night hike this year? Is there anything different from last year? And is there things that you can share with us without giving too much away?
Mother Nature's cooperating with the cherry blossoms. Hopefully, hopefully we don't have a hailstorm the day of. You know, right now I've been tracking the weather for quite a while. I know a lot of people probably think that it's too soon to be tracking weather, but there's a way that you can track the trends. So right now we're looking at, there's going to be a little bit of rain in the morning that's supposed to have dissipated by the evening, by the afternoon actually. So we won't need 500 rain ponchos, and it's going to still be a little bit chilly. It's going to be in the mid to upper 40s when we do our hike, and close to the lower 40s when we finish our hike. We're starting an hour early just so that we can enjoy a little bit of the sunset before we get going, because that makes for amazing pictures. It's a good selling point too, to see a line of people glowing in the dark along the tidal basin, with the sun setting. It's a lot of really good pictures, but then we'll be out and we'll be able to enjoy that while we're along the tidal basin. There's going to be a lot of fun. I have a couple of really cool vendors that are coming out. We have some really cool raffle items. We don't have a huge raffle for this hike, but we do have good items from Go Ruck, from Wolfpack. We've got some restaurants that have donated gift cards. We have some other stuff from the Washington Nationals. We have box seat tickets that are going to go up for raffle. So we have some good stuff. A DJ to get the party going, as everybody registers, and we have Mission Barbecue catering dinner.
Very cool. Very cool. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm actually, now I'm kind of bummed that I'm not going to be able to make it down. I know there's a bunch of people coming up from the New England area that are coming down for it. So
Mhm.
maybe they, if they're listening to this when it airs, that they'll kidnap me on the way down, and I won't say no to that, because you can't kidnap the willing.
Right, right.
um,
Very
I'm
true.
trying to think. What's that?
I said that's very true. You can't kidnap the willing.
You can't. It's more like I guess I'm just going now. What else can you tell us about this the night hike itself? Like I feel like there's more to it. Like why? And I guess like other than the why behind it, and knowing that the community has really been supportive of it. Um, what else can you tell us about like the enjoyment that you guys get out of that night hike?
For me, I, aside from, the mission and everything that I get out of it, I get out of, meeting the new people, watching new people meet and talk to each other and everything else. But I also get out of it, I've lived in DC for 12 years, and I've come to appreciate what DC has to offer. So I actually like leading everybody through DC so that they can see and appreciate the beauty for what it is and what it stands for and what it means. Because I do think that, you know, going through the monuments, especially like the Vietnam Memorial, when you walk by the wall, one of the things that just makes my heart sing is that we do that as a group completely silent. And I've gone back and have seen the videos of us walking through the wall, and you don't hear anybody talking. And it's very sombering, but it's very uplifting at the same point to see so many people paying and showing their respects. Um, and I think a lot for me is, it's fun, but it's also like a history lesson. This is come see the memorials and the monuments that are erected for the people that came before us and paved the way.
Absolutely, and you mentioned a good point. So, like the wall, when you describing that sounded almost the same exact scenario that is when we do the New York City hike, and we're at Ground Zero, right? The monument
Mhm.
there, where we're having like it's a party. We're going through New York City, woo, and then all of a sudden we get to that stop, and all that
Mhm.
stops. Like we are, and
Yep.
it is the most respectful, quiet, somber. Um, Part of that entire hike, and we I think it was last year, 2 years ago, they even had, like, a bagpiper playing Amazing Grace, like, while we were at that stop. I don't think there was a dry eye in the entire hike element, at that point, right before we walked back off. It was pretty intense. So I can totally empathize with stopping and being at the wall and paying those respects because that it's amazing to see how we can switch from being in party mode, or for the DC for the night hike, it's rave mode, and going from rave mode all the way to respect and
Mhm.
dignity, and then being able to partake in that, and then flip the switch again, and now, all right, we're good. All right, rave again. Let's go.
And the community, when they've seen us do that, has been really great. We've had other veterans or even civilians that will stop what they're doing at the wall, and they will put their hand over their heart as we're walking through with all of our flags and stuff. And then, like, even during our day hike, there is every single year there's been the same Vietnam veteran that's at the end, and everybody in the hike element stops and gives him a hug and thanks him for his service before walking onto the pavement to the wall. So it's great to see and feel. And I think that that kind of element, seeing us going through the different monuments and paying our respects, and the community sees that. I think that speaks a lot to why we're able to do what we do with NDC. Because even though we have 200, 300 plus people, depending on the hike, being able to do that and be respectful, it speaks a lot to the organization.
Absolutely, and that's very it's so heartwarming. Yeah, when you're paying the respects to the men and women that came before us and did all that and served and everything and being able to show that appreciation and kudos to that veteran for being at the end of our your hike, so so
Mhm.
that he can have like have it be a part of it a little bit, which is very cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I really wish that I was going to be able to be down there for the night hike. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see the photos that come from it. I do hope it is a
Mhm.
huge success and that you and your team get everything out of it that you're hoping for.
I think that we will. We definitely will. It's going to be a great time. We've all put in a lot of work to just make sure that this is the best night hike yet. Every year it's going to improve. I think for me, the highlight is seeing everybody come out, people that I've seen from other hikes, you know, just coming out and, having a good time.
Absolutely. And for everybody that's listening, remember, there it is, March 29th, 5
Hmm.
o'clock or 1700. Scan those QR codes. If you're not there, you're wrong. All right. All you veterans, active duty, Guard Reserve, even the Space Force, you guys come on out and hang out. Have a good time at the DC night hike, the rave hike. Um, and there you have it. I want to thank Kim. Thank you so much for coming out and spending some time with us this evening. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you. Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I no, and I do appreciate you taking the time. I know that as LCs, we're all like super, super busy, and this stuff that all the extra stuff is it's fun, but I know that you guys have tons of work that you guys got to get done, especially because you only got a few weeks left. So, um, but thank you everybody for listening and tuning in, and be sure to share this episode far and wide so we can bring a little humor and camaraderie to anybody who might listen. Until then, stay irreverent, my friends.